think we're live. TikTok, time to rock. We'll know in about 30 seconds. I am having a couple of, the internet's running a little slower than normal tonight. So hopefully that won't be any problems. All right, I see us live over here. All right. Guess, kind of good morning to everyone. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. If you don't know what's going on here, I made a video a couple weeks ago about situation with my kids. Actually, check this out. I got an extra camera angle over here. What? Look at that. That's what's in front of me. I just connected a camera right there. You see on the left there, Reed is sleeping. On the right, Paley is still awake. He's over there playing on an iPad. He must have taken a nap earlier in the day when I was asleep, because he is not tired at all now. So he is up with me in the middle of the night, and that means you're going to get some alarms while we're talking here, because just if he's moving around stuff, almost anything, any sort of movement, if he shifts one direction or coughs or anything like that, it'll set off this alarm with the pressure thing. So you'll be hearing a little bit from Paley, and he will eventually start playing some music or song or something on that iPad. You probably hear it in the background. All right, so I'm here with my friend Vocab. Now I'm up all night, Vocab, because I have to be. We have a nurse during the week at night, and we have a nurse during the week during the day. But on the weekends we have no nurse, so my wife Marie watches the kids during the day, and then I watch the kids at night. And so mentioned last week that since I was up all night, we would just go live, and Vocab and I went live and talked about basically anything that anyone wants to talk about over in the chat. We'll go ahead and just chat. And so the idea is, if you guys are up, then we're up, and we might as well talk about some stuff rather than, whatever else we might be doing. All right, now Vocab and I, Vocab just saw Bumblebee, and he started telling me about it. He started telling me about it when we're getting on Skype and stuff. And I told him, just save it. Just save it for the live stream, because this movie doesn't even come out. This movie doesn't even come out for 2 weeks. I couldn't even find any reviews on it, which means that reviewers haven't even seen it yet, or if they have seen it, they're sworn to silence and secrecy. So, how did you come by this Bumblebee movie and cup?
Well, the producers approached me and said, "Hey, we heard you have 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Would you like some free early tickets?"
Wait, who did this?
No, I'm just totally BSing. That's not.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, Michael Bay. Yeah.
John Cena was hanging out.
Nah, but what happened is, Instagram reads your mind, and so I get these advertisements that pop up, and they're like, "See the Bumblebee movie early. All you got to do is," and I'm like, "What?" Like, they're doing this again, I guess now, like these early release things for like super fans, and you can get in. It doesn't seem to cost anymore, from what I can gather, and you could go as long as there's seats, and if you're in a big city, you can find them. So it was actually kind of simple, and it was awesome. We had to drive to a pretty far away theater to do it, 35 minutes, but my kids were shocked because they're like, "How's it? How it doesn't come out yet?" So it was fun though. It was a lot of fun. So it didn't have anything to do with my clout, but check it out. They nailed the 80s aspect of it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The soundtrack. So I'm not going to give any spoilers away, by the way. But the soundtrack alone, they're throwing in, the Smiths, and they got the famous Breakfast Club ending. That's a prominent part of the movie.
The Breakfast Club ending? What do you mean, when Bender walks out and holds his hand up?
Yeah. That's a prominent part of the movie.
Don't you forget about me.
Don't. Oh, man. No, they killed it. They killed it with that. And it wasn't making fun of the 80s. They just incorporated it perfectly. It's set in 1987. And so there's cassette tapes and everything else. So that's a major thing. I think that's a sort of a fan service. And they did have some throwback elements to what's called G1. If you're a big nerd, you know the G1 means Generation 1 of Transformers. They didn't only stay there, even though it was in the 80s, but nonetheless, they gave much proper nods, especially the prologue and the epilogue to the movie. That's kind of the key places. So this is a movie, you cannot get there late. The beginning of the movie totally establishes its credibility as a legitimate G1 fan service Transformers movie, and is some of the coolest action you could imagine. My kids are still freaking out about one little sequence that was less than 5 seconds long. They just are talking about this one little part that's in the beginning of the movie where Soundwave,
Soundwave
character,
Soundwave was my favorite Transformer of all time. You know why? On the original series, he was like completely loyal to Megatron. Well, like Starscream's always trying to betray him, but Soundwave, as you command, Megatron. He was always like that. I always thought that was cool. And plus, you know, he just rolled in as his own separate army.
Totally. I'm kind of like your Soundwave and John McCrae. He's more like
Starscream.
He's more like your Starscream.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm Megatron.
but nah, man. There is a fight between Starscream and Bumblebee. Oh, it's great. It is great.
What is it? Is it just Bumblebee and a bunch of bad guys?
No. So I'm telling you parts that I particularly like, but it's my complaint about the movie would be, and I'm not a big action movie guy in the sense that everything needs to be nonstop action. I'm not into that. Like, I need a story. I need good dialogue. I need the movie to be intelligent. Pure action is usually not able to express the intelligence that I do care about in a movie. However, I'm telling you about these certain parts because I love them, but the movie moves pretty slow at points. Now, that's a good contrast to the Bay movies, which were not comfortable to ever sit still and to have intelligent dialogue.
So this is not Michael Bay?
No, it's a different guy.
Good.
Travis Knight, I think. He gets it, though. And in fact, the design, they totally went retro on it. So
Michael Bay reminds me of Zack Snyder in the sense that they can think if you just throw a massive budget and tons of CGI, screw the writers, screw having good writers writing a good story. And I'm always thinking, gosh, if you're spending $150, $200 million on a movie, spend an extra $500,000 on an awesome writer who can write an awesome story with some awesome dialogue, and then throw all your CGI stuff in there, right? And then,
yeah.
But it's like they're saying, hey, you know, all we have to do is kick $150 million into this, and we're gonna make $500 million profit, and it doesn't matter what we do because the CGI people are gonna show up for. Screw the story, and
Oh, Matthew Scarborough's making an interesting thing. He's saying it might have been Blitzwing, not Starscream. So for those who know, Blitzwing is also a Decepticon jet, but he transforms into a jet as well as a tank. Thundercracker's not in it. If it was Blitzwing, which I think you're right because I heard someone mention him, this Blitzwing that they have looks just like Starscream. If it is Blitzwing, I don't know, but they do have what Blitzwing is either way, a triple changer. So in the original Transformers of G1, there's robots who could have 3 modes, 2 vehicle forms and a robot mode. This movie has triple changers. Oh. So they look freaking awesome when they go from hot rods to helicopters, and then hot rods into airplanes, and then back to robots, which is a real thing from G1, Generation 1 Transformers. So I was all about that as well.
It's easy to get just so everyone knows, it's easy to get the jets. The G1 Transformers, sometimes they would use the exact same Transformer toy and just paint it differently.
Yep,
and it would be a different character.
Yeah, guys, I'm not gonna give any spoilers.
People are complaining. Stop spoiling the movie. No one's spoiling the movie. I haven't seen the movie. How am I going to spoil the movie?
I haven't given any spoilers, though. I don't think in any way. There's no.
You mentioned that there's a scene with Soundwave. So if that's too much for you, then don't listen to Vocab.
Trailer. That's in the trailer. So you could have seen all of this in the trailer. All the stuff I'm saying. It's basically a coming of age story. It's sort of a girl and her dog who becomes her best friend type story. You know, it's that kind of thing. So it gets slow at points. It gets sappy at points. But I could tell because I was mainly surrounded by like a lot of kind of millennials were there, actually. I could tell they were totally into it. So the movie doesn't disappoint the old school fans, but the millennials were like with it. I could tell 100% they were like feeling it because it hit their sensibility. So I think it's going to do really well. Is it perfect? I mentioned the dialogue. I'm just saying it's not as bad as Michael Bay's stuff. It's not like some perfect, flawless. Like, the movie really is not that deep. Like, I like to do the philosophical analysis on movies. This movie, it would be a strain to do a whole lot of philosophical analysis because it's not much present there. You'd have to focus kind of on some issues with family. That's a key thing. You have to focus on things like that, but it doesn't have a massive amount of that. So that's not what it's about, but it's definitely a feel good overall. There's a little bit of language, but the sexualization of women is almost absent from the movie. Like, which is nice, again, comparing to Michael Bay, who over-sexualized almost every woman in any way that was there. That doesn't really happen.
Even Megan Fox?
Well, you remember the Michael Bay movies, close-ups on lips and all this slow-motion running with low-hanging shirts. It was just out of control.
No, it was all like, hey, there is no way this Victoria's Secret model is this special scientist in your secret laboratory here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, these, this movie is a pretty good family movie, and it's a movie that I don't think will disappoint newer or older. Again, it's not perfect. It's not very deep. It's definitely not a very in-depth movie, but I don't see how almost anyone could go to the movie and not have fun and not enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Like, I see people who don't even like Transformers that much liking it because they make Bumblebee so much like the perfect pet dog of all time. Like, so expressive and he's so cute, you know, that kind of thing. But man, he's dope because he's riding around in his little VW and they do these crazy car chases, but it's this little VW and you know, it's just cool. It's cool when he goes into fight mode too. Like, the action is well done. I mean, you can actually tell what's going on. And
that's a shocker.
Yeah, because again, very different than the Bay movies, right? So this is a much smaller movie. Like, it really focuses on the relationship with this girl and Bumblebee, which is fine. She's a relatively likable character. Like, she seems legit in it. You know what I'm saying? She's not she seems legit. You know, kind of a tomboy, but not out of control with it. It's legit. I give it 2 thumbs up, no doubt, and I think a lot of people are going to be very happy with it. I encourage people to see it when it does drop. I think you're going to see a lot of positive reviews about it.
Yeah, I'm going to wait on the reviews. I don't entirely trust your judgment on Transformers movies because I watched the first one and I was done, and that was apparently the best one compared to the others. So if you're like, I can't wait to see Bumblebee, I'm like, yeah, all right. Let me get a second, third, fourth, and fifth opinion on this one.
But I never gave those other movies positive reviews, so what do you mean?
You know you watched them.
Of course I watched them. They're Transformers. I don't have a choice to watch.
Vocab's like, Dark Side of the Moon is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
I know why you liked it because it's similar to a Pink Floyd
I like
album.
the Pink. Yeah, they're biting off of Pink Floyd there, trying to get some people to watch it. All right, Niall said, "Hey, David and Vocab, doesn't the Kaaba look like a Transformer in disguise?" That would be. How would that be in a Transformer movie, right?
The cube. He's talking about the big black cube that gives them their.
Yeah.
That's actually funny. That would be an interesting skit to have the Kaaba.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking, how cool would that be? Like in an actual Transformers movie, you know, Bumblebee's over there, and then the Kaaba transforms and starts blasting people. Right? He's been absorbing evil for all these centuries. Hey! By the way, for everyone who thinks that was mean, according to Islam, the black stone was originally white, but it absorbs people's sins, and so much of it that it's now black, and so there is some of that going on. But imagine that the black stone is like this power absorber.
It's the
it absorbs sin to make like this like evil Decepticon matrix of leadership, and then like that powers the Kaaba. Anyway, you could do some people could do some crazy interesting stuff if they weren't scared of getting their heads chopped off.
That kind of is.
Hey! By the way, before we get into some of our topics here, we were mentioning this earlier. I said it kind of as a joke, but then I realized how awesome it was because Robert was saying that he wanted the truth, his book, The Truth About Muhammad, which is a biography of Muhammad, to be made into a movie, but no one wanted to do it. And I said, what would be awesome is if we did a Lego stop motion version of it, because, and you could put at the beginning, hey, Legos are the only things that, aren't worried about getting their heads chopped off. So the entire movie had to be made with Legos. And then I said, what if we made it a rap opera? Lego stop motion, Life of Muhammad, rap opera.
Do you know I've written a rap opera before?
Wait, is that the one that James was in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote about a quarter of that script, maybe a little bit more.
So
one year they had me co-direct.
If I were to get you together with Mike and Tony from Hazakim, maybe one or two other people of your choice, and to give them the historical details, basically give each of you a copy of The Truth About Muhammad, and say, turn this into a rap opera. You guys would be responsible for doing the soundtrack, coming up with all the songs, and I would get a different team to do the Lego stop motion. You're saying we could actually do this 2-hour rap opera, Life of Muhammad?
That sounds like a super expensive project, but also super epic.
Could it be done?
Yo, it could definitely be done. There's no doubt about that. Like, that could be. There's so many things you could do. You could, there's so much you could do. Because you could have the poets. You could have the poets appear, all the poets that he killed, and they could like battle Muhammad.
But they're all the rappers, and he's got to keep killing them.
Yeah, but instead of battling him, he just
could you imagine Asma bint Marwan?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She's
yes.
She jumping up like the brat, and Muhammad has to kill her.
That would be. Is it her or is it a different lady? She'd be like rapping while she's holding her babies.
Yeah.
And then it gets kind of dark real quick, actually. But yeah, that would be dope, man. Hey, by the way, I saw Glory Apologetics up in here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I forget where and actually, it looks like there's a number of people visiting tonight from India, which is awesome.
That's the benefit of us being on in the middle of the night. It's a regular time for people around the world. That's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because lots of people complain. I normally do my live streams at like 8 o'clock at night and stuff.
Right.
And some people are like, no, that's the middle of the night here, or no, I'm at work during that time. And so doing one on the weekend at a different time might work out. All right, well, anything else you wanted to add on the movie front before we jump into a topic here?
You would enjoy it, your kids would enjoy it, but you're not going to leave and say it's like as awesome or epic as, the Last Avengers or anything like that. It's not going to be like that. It'll just be more enjoyable. But I think most of the people in a live chat will dig it too. Like I said, there's only a little bit of language, and violence is not it's almost negligible as far as like actually like, oh, that's violent. And maybe the what's-her-face girl could dress a tad bit more modest on certain things, but there's nothing even sexual in it. Mm-hmm. So I'm about that's sort of the moral, parents' common sense side of it. And the other side, they totally respect the property. They give much love to the 80s, in which the property kind of lives and breathes. And yet I know they're going to reel in a bunch of new people. And so it's kind of like a perfect reboot. Like the way they did it was perfect, even though my main negative comment, this is my summary review, is there's parts where it's too slow. They kind of overdo some of their relationship between Bumblebee and the girl a little bit, where it kind of slows it. I'm like, okay, I get it. He's in pain and she doesn't want to watch. Okay, I get it. Neither of them have friends. Okay, I get it. They're both coming of age. Okay, I get it. Please move on. There's a couple times where I was like that, but nothing where I just had to turn away or cringe or said, oh my gosh, like I did time and time again with Bay movies. Mm-hmm. So that's a thumbs up. And I'll drink to that out of my Bumblebee glass.
I see some of the people been telling us where they're from. Why doesn't everyone go ahead and share with us where you're from? We're about to jump into a topic. I did want to bring up one more point on the Transformers, because you mentioned sort of examining the movies philosophically, and that's something I've always done. And I remember when I don't remember how old I was when the movie came out. Transformers, the movie. I don't mean the Michael Bay.
86.
I mean, yeah, the cartoon.
86.
Yeah. And, of course, like, half the Transformers in that movie die.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, half of the G1 Transformers die. The Dinobots are still around. Bumblebee's still around. Prime comes back later, but basically, they just start killing them off left and right in this big war. And then, even Megatron gone, a bunch of those guys gone. I mean, he gets changed into Galvatron and stuff. But back then, I was examining it philosophically, and I was thinking, isn't it cool that they're trying to teach us kids about death? Because, you know, yeah, your heroes are eventually going to die, and you can't just keep going into all these big fights and acting like everything's going to be all right and everyone's going to come out. It's fine. It's cool that they're finally getting real with us and showing us that, you know, your heroes are going to die eventually, and we're all going to die, and they're introducing this concept of death to us. And I didn't figure out until like 6 or 7 years ago, I was thinking about it, I was like, they just did that to give us a bunch of new toys, right? Like,
yeah, here's the reason they did it, David.
What?
I have, by the way, this is the Transformers action figure Bible right here.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultimate Transformers Guide. Here's the reason they did it. This is the last page of the 1985 figures.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first page of the 1986 figures. They wanted a way to introduce the 1986 figures, exactly.
Yeah,
but the thing is, they had no idea the attachment, the emotional attachment that boys all over the world had to these characters, and they didn't realize what it would do. But in hindsight, it makes the movie epic because the stakes in the movie are immediately raised. Although it is a little bit unconventional to kill off all your most popular people right in the beginning of the movie and then do the rest of the movie with people no one knows about. Very unconventional, but it makes it kind of an epic movie. Like I think it's still fun to watch, the 86 movie.
Yeah,
By the way,
I just thought that was a jerk move, right? They're like, look, most of the kids who love Transformers have all the main Transformers. We can occasionally introduce new Transformers, or we could just do a movie, kill everyone off, and introduce an entire new squad that's sometime in the future. And again, when I was a kid, I thought there was a different reason, and then I grew up, and nope, that was money. They were, hey, let's kill off all your heroes, kids, to get more money out of you, because now you have to buy Rodimus Prime, which I didn't even like. All right.
You know what's weird? My kids love Rodimus, though. They think he's
really?
like the coolest thing. It's the flames, and I think they kind of relate to him because he's impetuous.
I'm talking about the toy.
The toy was really
because
bad.
I was a little kid, right? I was a little kid.
Toy.
I had Optimus Prime for some reason. It was just more fun to play with than Rodimus Prime. It's like they got cheaper in the toys.
They did. Cheaper. 84 and 85, they used die-cast metal parts. Yeah. So they actually had metal pieces, and they cut
after
that
they were
out.
Plastic.
Yeah, almost entirely in 86. And the other big difference in 86 is they left real-world vehicles. So Bumblebee's a VW, the Seeker jets are F-15s, stuff like that. In 86, things became futuristic and unrecognizable. So it made a big difference.
Hey, you remember this one? When they brought Optimus Prime back to life, and they brought Optimus Prime back to life, and then he supposedly died again, crashing into a star. Those things with the 4 faces. Remember those things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had 5 faces. It's the Quintessons.
Yeah, Quintessons. Yeah.
Yeah. They had the organic parts, the tentacles.
So they brought Optimus Prime back to life, but he was like controlled by them, and then he goes and supposedly crashes into a star. But then they bring him back for this 2-parter, where there's this there are these spores that are taking over and turning everyone evil, and so they bring him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was epic.
Bumblebee gets messed up or something like this, and then he gets plated in gold somehow, and he says, "Hey, now I'm a gold bug." And Optimus Prime is like, "Well, that's what you'll be from now on, gold bug."
And then they came out with a toy.
That's one where I actually spotted it. You guys wanted us to buy a new Bumblebee car because you know he's popular. These guys are dirtbags, man. We're dealing with dirtbags. Oh, man.
But it worked because 30 years later, Transformers went from, little transforming robot cars into major motion pictures.
Yeah. All right. All right, so let's go into topic right here, and I have a comment that will introduce it for us. Milo, this is from James Hall. Milo and Sargon have nothing to do with Christian apologetics or Christianity. Why is Sargon the lead to this video live stream? Come on now. Well, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you think these issues aren't relevant, you have no clue what you're talking about, right? There are times in history where you can't exactly say what you want. And there are places right now in the world where you can't say what you want, right? Go ahead and ask Asya Bibi whether it's important to stand up when people start trying to silence or marginalize people based on what they say, right? So we have something special in certain parts of the world where we can say what we want. We can have open discussions. There are limits. There are limits to what you are allowed to legally say. You can't just make up horrible things about someone and spread them around. That is illegal. You can't do stuff that's going to get people trampled to death. Like if you're going to yell, the classic example is if you're going to yell fire in a crowded theater, you're only supposed to do that if there's an actual fire. Then you could do it. But if there's not a fire, you can't do that sort of thing. And then we get to issues like issues with Milo and Sargon. Now, Milo Yiannopoulos, for those of you who don't know, we'll give a quick rundown here. Milo Yiannopoulos, he's a guy who came out a couple years ago, and most people had never heard of him before. But he was sort of a professional at provoking people, right? He was good at really ticking off people, and it was at a time when lots of people were just fed up with all the sniveling crybaby students on college campuses who are whining about microaggressions and having their safe spaces and things like that. He's just, they can't take anything. People are sick of that. And these were the people who, as sensitive as they were, would not hesitate to heap abuse on anyone who disagreed with them. They would yell racist at anyone who disagreed with them about anything. Oh, you disagree with this policy on this? It's because you're a racist. And they start shouting people down as racists and so on. So Milo came out and just really started ticking these people off. And it was hard to criticize him because he's gay. And that made it really difficult, right? Because they would try to lump everyone together as, whatever it is, fundamentalist or something like this. And Milo comes out and he's a gay guy, but he's condemning a sort of nutbag leftist. And I don't just mean, there's a reasonable place on the political spectrum. You could be Republican or Democrat and have good ideas, but you can be so far out on one side, either side, that you're going to cause a lot of problems. And things, especially on college campuses, had been swinging in that direction, like further and further. Like, you didn't just have to be on the left side of the political spectrum. You had to be radical left, or you're too far right, right? If you're anything besides radical left. Anyway, Milo comes on the stage, starts really ticking everyone off, and became popular mainly because he was ticking off people that a lot of people think needed to be ticked off. And that's something that you had a parallel situation with Donald Trump, right? There are people who like Donald Trump. There are people who like Donald Trump as a businessman. There are people who think he'd be a good leader. But there were people who voted for Donald Trump who just were voting for him because he was ticking off people that they really didn't like, right? People who had been heaping abuse on them for years, calling them bigots, and here's a guy who's ticking them off and enraging them. So people liked that. People liked that about him. So Milo was before that. But eventually he had all kinds of problems in that he really he loved to provoke people so much that eventually he was doing it in ways that alienated a lot of his fan base. So he lost a lot of his popularity, lost a lot of his speaking invitations, and was frankly, to be clear, he was saying some horrible things. He was, you can look him up. You can look up the kinds of things that he was saying that really alienated him from a lot of his fan base. So there's that situation, and He, just a few days ago, tried to start a Patreon account, Patreon campaign for him to, continue doing what he's doing. Was shut down almost immediately. So that's Milo. And so the question for those of you here would be, if Milo is basically a professional provocateur, and that's what he does, should Patreon allow him to use their platform or not allow him to use their platform? And just keep in mind, this is different from straightforward freedom of speech issues, because Patreon is a company, right? Freedom of speech, normally when we're talking about freedom of speech, what we mean is, if we're talking about a place like the United States of America, freedom of speech is basically a right that's protecting you from the government. So the First Amendment is telling the government what it can and cannot do. And the government can't stop most forms of speech. Again, there are limitations. So this isn't saying you can't be on our platform or you can't use our platform is not the same thing as the government silencing someone. So he's not being silenced by the government. So the reason we're dealing with this is an important issue for everyone. Christian apologists, more so with people who speak and criticize Islam, because guess what? There are all kinds of people who say that we shouldn't be allowed to criticize Islam. Not on YouTube, not on Twitter, not on Facebook, not on the internet. There are people who make these claims. And they are sometimes successful. My channel is still up, but I have had videos removed by YouTube without explanation. And others have had channels entirely removed, things like that. People have been removed from Twitter. Tommy Robinson, regardless of what you think about Tommy's, anything he said in the past or something like this, he was removed from from Twitter for saying Islam promotes killing. So Twitter said, you just said Islam promotes killing. That is unacceptable on our platform. You have to be banned. And I immediately jumped in there like, what do you mean? What do you think Muhammad meant when he said, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion, kill him? That sounds like it's promoting killing there. It sounds like it's promoting killing. And the response of lots of people was, but, you could look at the Old Testament and it promotes, yeah, you shouldn't be banned for saying, hey, these Old Testament verses promote killing. You shouldn't be banned off something for that, right? You could point to chapter and verse. Why would you ban someone for that sort of thing? So getting people shut down from these platforms is very real to us. In fact, I feel on a regular basis like it's right around the corner. YouTube shuts us down, Twitter shuts us down, Facebook shuts us down, right? Especially especially with things like Islamicize Me and stuff, we kind of push it as far as we can, as far as we can go, right? And so if anyone's going to get blocked for basically peaceful content, because, just to be clear, if you were saying, hey, kill Muslims or something like that, they're going to ban you, and they should ban you for something like that. But we are in the realm of peaceful content. We're criticizing an ideology. We're criticizing a man who's been dead for 14 centuries. We're criticizing his claims, but we're not advocating for hurting anyone. We're against that. And we're doing it because our goal is ultimately to help people. So, but with that said, we push the envelope a lot. We go pretty hard in what we do. And so when we see platforms like Patreon banning Milo, I have to say, okay, what's this guy do? Basically, he provokes a lot of people. Well, we provoke a lot of people, right? Milo's not out killing anyone. So what's going on? That's something that could affect us, not just on Patreon, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on the internet. And there are people who say, hey, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It does matter. If all of a sudden we're not allowed to use the main platforms of communication in the world. Because, guys, especially if you're a Christian, Christians have never had opportunities like we have today to share information around the world. There are people watching, and you guys are already posting all the different places around the world where you're watching from. right? People around the world are watching this right now. Why? Because we have a way to do that, right? We're able to do that on YouTube. This is amazing. It's amazing to be able to do stuff like this. So when I see major companies, major platforms saying, no, you go a little too far, Milo, so you didn't even make it a day on the platform, that's a concern. Unless you show, hey, here's where you violated a clear policy of our website, of our platform, and since you violated this policy, you have to go. If that were the case, and I look at the policies and I say, well, I haven't violated any of these policies, so I'm good to go. If that were the situation, that would be one thing, but that's not what has happened. I haven't examined the case with Milo very much, but I did examine the case with Sargon. Now, just to be clear, I don't follow these guys very much. I would watch some of Milo's lectures back in the day where he would show up to tick everyone off, because I was watching it from the perspective of how much is he going to get away with before they shut him down. So I was very interested in it from that perspective. Sargon, I've watched a couple of Sargon's videos, but I don't watch a lot of people on YouTube. If I'm watching YouTube, I'm trying to be entertained because my brain is fried. So I don't watch a lot of people's content. If I'm watching something, I'll click on Vocab or John's video or something like that. Usually people I know. I've watched a couple of Sargon's videos. His discussion on Kathy Newman back when Kathy Newman had the little exchange with Jordan Peterson. I watched that because that was interesting. But haven't followed a lot. But when I heard he got banned, that was pretty wild, because I'm thinking, what is he doing? He makes YouTube videos making fun of stuff and criticizing stuff, right? That's exactly what I do. So why, if he's getting banned, then why could I not be next? So unless he violated some clear policy, and then you look at the rules, and he absolutely 100% did not violate any of their policies, right? If you go to their page on hate speech, it says that the only hate speech they're going to block you for is hate speech posted on Patreon. He never did. If you look at what he's actually, how they justified shutting him down, I'll go ahead and tell you what it was. And Vocab, you can share your thoughts on this. But basically 10 months ago, he was on someone else's channel. And there were some modern Nazis in the chat or something like that. And they're basically, they had been stalking him, right? Trying to shout him down and so on. And they're blasting around with the N-word. And then he calls them the N-word, right? So he calls some white supremacists the N-word, and which I don't think he should do. But let's be clear, he wasn't calling African Americans the N-word. He was calling white supremacists the N-word. And he was saying exactly how you say that black people behave and that this makes them inferior. This is exactly how you guys behave, right? So he's in effect telling them, hey, what you are calling them a name for is exactly how you behave, and I'm going to call you the name. So I think that was a bad idea. Don't think that was a good way to go about it. But is that something that Patreon should be banning someone for? Well, it completely goes against everything they say in their policy. It completely goes against everything their CEO has said, because he said, and if you go to Sargon's page, he posts a video where he plays clips of what Patreon's CEO said about Patreon's policy. He said, it doesn't matter what you say on Twitter, it only matters what you say here. Well, guess what? That's what they say. That's their official policy. And yet they're shutting Sargon down for something that had absolutely nothing to do with violating Patreon's stated policies. So here's the situation I'm in, and that Vocab's in here. When that sort of thing happens, hey, here are rules and guidelines, and hey, if we just feel like it one day, we're gonna say, screw our rules and guidelines. We'll just block you for not liking you, or because we didn't like something you did. If they can do that, if they can do that, then now that affects everyone, right? That does. So if you're saying, hey, why are you guys talking about that? This affects us, right? This affects us. Because, Patreon can do that. What happens when YouTube does that? What happens when Twitter does that? And guess what? All of these groups do that. I don't post content that violates any of YouTube's guidelines, and yet they take down my videos. They will take down my videos. No explanation, no appeal. There's supposed to be an explanation, and there's supposed to be an appeal. That's in the rules. They just don't do it. So you have situations where there are people working at these companies who can just shut you down, who can start going after you. And the leaders of the companies don't seem to stand up when this sort of thing happens. So I would say this is very relevant to all of us. All right, Vocab, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I have less thoughts on this and more thoughts on the Bumblebee movie. No, but in all seriousness, these are also folks that I'm not ultra familiar with, but I've seen some of them around. Mm-hmm. I've heard people mention their names, kind of thing. And then when these things kind of happen, I'll go see, what were they doing or what were they talking about, and I'll see, they had substantial influence in different sectors, and a lot of people seem to know who they are and stuff. So they're not in my circle either. It's not really about that. I did watch one video, the one you sent me though, on this, and I thought he made excellent points, because there seems to be the policing that some of these groups, these companies are doing. It seems to be very one-sided, mm-hmm. and inconsistent and even illogical. And you just have to wonder why. And it's a bad trend. It's a bad step in the wrong direction. And it's like, where will they stop? Because you could kind of tell they can justify it, and they don't have to justify it apparently, and they just do it. And they don't even really follow what they lay down. A lot of these policies are really unclear. Like, these are something you could probably never get away with if you had like an actual contract. Mm-hmm. This, like, the vague language and the language they do have, or what they've said, if it was some kind of binding contract, they'd be, I think, held liable, where they'd be like, hey, you need to follow through with what you said. So it is troubling, since social media is so important. Mm-hmm. And
really, we've been building our work around the availability of social media, right? I mean, that's mm-hmm. where Christian apologists historically go around speaking, right? And then, a little more recently, in the past few decades, they started getting to, doing television or making DVDs and things. And then more recently, in the past decade, basically, some have switched over to, using things like YouTube, focusing on things like YouTube. Most Christian apologists who do YouTube do it as secondary to going around and speaking and everything else they were doing. So we're some of the few who just said, no, we will go full time, right, on platforms like YouTube. And so once you find out, as you pointed out, that they can just shut down and don't really have to justify it, that's scary, because let's face it, if there's nothing in the Patreon policy, their stated policy on things like hate speech, if there's nothing in there that would prevent Sargon from doing anything he's done, or that would suggest that there's any problem with anything Sargon has done, if there's nothing in their policy, then that means he's being banned for something else. And what's he really being banned for? Well, he just brushes certain people the wrong way. And he's developed some angry critics who are going around trying to get him shut down. And so that's the problem. If platforms like Patreon are going to surrender to the mob, right? Or worse yet, if members of the mob are actually working at Patreon, well, guess what? They're working at YouTube as well. So those policies have to be enforced, not just on people who are violating them, but on people who are using them as excuses to shut people down who aren't even violating the policies. And so that's when you just have to bring awareness to this and point it out that it's happening and see what you can actually do about it. Go ahead, Vocab.
Don't makers of like adult games, aren't they also on Patreon? Like, I don't know all the details, but I was reading in some of the
What sort of
comments.
stuff are you looking at on Patreon, you pervert?
No, in one of the comments, one of the videos you sent me.
Yeah, my favorite game, this adult game, man. This funded by Patreon, man. No, you're watching the videos as far as the videos that have come out pointing out the hypocrisy. Wait a minute, it's okay to fund this on Patreon and not that, right?
Yeah, that's seems troubling. And then I guess Antifa's on there, Antifa.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they've done and said some pretty out there things from what I know about them, and it seems like they're able to be on there. So again, I don't defend these, what these guys did or say, but I thought Patreon was almost supposed to be bigger than that. I mean, it's like meta. They're not about, especially off platform, but that seems like that's what's going on, and that's troubling because if it's not consistent, if it's not logical, if it's not predictable, if you can't expect it, if you can't explain it, it shakes up the trust that's kind of built in there, because anybody could wake up one day and all their stuff is just gone, and there was no warning, there was no process, there's no way to appeal it. That's not good customer service, to say the least. Yeah. So it seems problematic. And one guy made a good point. I guess with some of these videos, they found these videos that are on other people's channels. So these weren't videos that had a high view count or channels with big subscribers. And then they're finding things in 3-hour videos with exact time codes. So it seems, I guess, clear they're being kind of sent stuff, but they're allowing the stuff they're getting sent to make them say, "We'll take action." Yep. So that's just that all seems troubling. Hey, a couple people in the super chat I want to give a shout out to. Unkindness of Ravens, great name.
Yeah, I saw that. No, it's good because if they're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens fans are a bunch of jerks usually. So that's true. So that is a good name. What?
And I never.
This is a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I bet.
I never knew
they're watching from. Yeah.
I never knew for years that the Baltimore Ravens were named that because of the association with Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, what a dumb reason to name a team, right?
I think it's kind of epic, honestly. I think that's a football team, which is like the dumbest sport ever, tapping into literature. Much props.
About to get blocked, Vocab, for talking trash. But go ahead.
We got James Bellari. Much love to you in the super chat. Nelson Gavin. Much love to you in the super chat. And then she just came on. Hey, how you doing, Laura Jukic? Jukic. Much love to you in the super chat as well. So yeah, we got some great people coming on and talking. And one person made a comment. And they said, "Super chat for these guys because they're really transforming lives." And I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but I feel like they did it on purpose because it's right when we were talking about Bumblebee. So I see what you did there, even if you didn't see it. Whoever wrote that comment.
Let's start looking at some of the comments here that are related to this topic, because I actually understand that this is difficult and new territory, right? Because again, as I mentioned, this is not the same idea as mere freedom of speech, right? Twitter is a company, YouTube is a company, Patreon is a company. As a company, you can set rules for what is acceptable on your platform. You can say, hey, anything goes, say anything you want. You could say that. You could say anything except for, directly promoting violence. You could say that. You could say anything except for these 10 different things. So you can make whatever rules you want. And a lot of these companies, this is new territory, right? That we're in a situation where in places like the United States, you can, if you're on the street, you can say whatever you want. You can say racist things. You can say horrible things, and the government will protect your right to say it. Not always. Sometimes they overstep the rules there, but generally, the United States has been great at protecting people's rights. So, what happens when, in the one sense, platforms like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook are companies, so they can set what rules they want. They can set whatever rules they want, but they are sort of really public forums, right? So it's almost like it should be as open and free as it can be. And so how do the companies navigate that platform when this is a difficult issue? Because there are people going to be saying things that a lot of other people don't want to hear. So what do you do? So that is a difficult issue. But Nadali here says, David Wood, we don't need Patreon anymore. Better use cryptocurrency. And that's where I would actually object. You don't need Patreon in the sense of we'll survive without Patreon. If Patreon boots us tomorrow, we'll survive. We'll make it. But Patreon helps, right? YouTube helps. We'll survive without YouTube. We can survive without it. We can do something else. But YouTube helps at things that we want to do. So you want to see it continue, right? You want to see YouTube continue. You want to see Facebook continue as a good platform. You want to see Twitter continue as a good platform. You want to see Patreon continue. Patreon is a brilliant idea, right? It's, hey, you want to be funded to do what you want to do, and there are people who would love to fund you. We'll be the middleman, right? We'll help people who want to fund you to do exactly what you want to do and what they want you to do. We will fund you. I mean, we will help them to fund you. And so that's a great idea. They're performing a wonderful service. So when that service becomes biased and is shutting people down for doing absolutely nothing that had anything to do with violating the rules, it's not a situation where I just want to say, well, I don't need Patreon anymore, right? I want to see Patreon get fixed. That's what I want to see. I want to see Patreon get better. I want to see Patreon stick to its own policies. That's what I'd like to see. Same thing with YouTube, right? I mean, YouTube has screwed me so many different times, but I've never gotten to the point where I can say, well, fine, I'm done with YouTube. I'll go somewhere else. Why? Because even though YouTube has screwed me multiple times, taking down videos for no reason, someone working at YouTube sabotaging stuff, even though that's happened multiple times, YouTube has allowed me to do a lot of what I want to do in life, right? So, in other words, they've got a ton of cool points for the things they've helped me with. And so when they screw up and do something that's messed up, I don't say, oh, I'm done with you. It's, hey, I really hope you work on that. I'm going to try and draw your attention to that, and I hope you fix that. It's the same with Patreon. So, Vocab, have you lost patrons during times when they're banning people?
Yeah, but I don't always know the reasons. I think I had one person I remember who said they're getting off. It was maybe two. They were getting off those platforms for that. Mm-hmm. And I respect their decision.
Yeah.
Because I understand people want to, I think, be proactive. They're trying to not wait too long to in some way be proactive and say, hey, look, well, I did this. These are tough calls to make. And one thing I hope people understand is when we mention some of these other groups, our hope is not that Patreon then goes and polices more people and goes after these groups that seem to be kind of on the other side of things. That's not the hope or the idea is, let's get them too. The idea is, no, fix it like you were saying. Fix it. And there will, you wonder if it'll be like other things. Whenever one area is closed, it offers up an avenue for legitimate competition after a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. It may not always be immediately, but some legitimate competition happens. And I'm no fan of Fox News. I don't watch it, but that seems to be a good example. I don't listen to right-wing political talk on the radio. I'm not dissing people, those who do, or anything like that. But I'm just saying that kind of arose partially because of alternative. Similar things now with social media. People started taking to other avenues. Well, now some of that's getting blocked. Hey, a couple of super chatters want to give a shout out to real quick. Ham Sunshine, Fourscore, Yeshua's Chosen, and Arlon 3. Good to see you again.
If any of them are, it's tough for me scrolling. So if you see any that have questions or want to make points, go ahead and read them off whenever you see them. Like Nelson Gavin said, God is Trinity. That's true.
Amen.
Yeah. So guys, the situation is whether you agree with Sargon or not, whether you agree with Milo or not. Some of the people who've been blocked are the alt-right personalities and stuff. So you may not be a fan of their views. The general principle in the West has historically been that if we're going to be able to say what we want to say, then we kind of have to defend each other's rights to say certain things. And once again, these are businesses; they can make policies, but these businesses are doing things that aren't based on their policies, right? So there is an agenda. There's an agenda here, and as vocab was pointing out. But by the way, I lost. I looked like around $150 in patrons today because of the ban. And for those patrons who said, "Hey, I don't want to use this platform anymore," I am totally 100% fine with that, right? If you're looking at this and saying, "I don't want to be on this platform," because Patreon takes a small percentage. So if someone is saying, "Hey, I do not want to fund a platform that is doing this," that is entirely reasonable, and I believe people need to take that step. But I also see a different perspective, namely, if everyone leaves Patreon, right? If all my supporters leave Patreon, all vocab supporters leave Patreon, and so on, then there's no incentive for Patreon to change, right? If the only people who stay on Patreon are the people who are on Patreon's good side on all issues, there's never any incentive for Patreon to change, right? Now imagine a world where this isn't the case, but imagine it were, where Patreon's top 50 content creators were Christian apologists or something like that. Well, guess what? Patreon's not going to want to mess with Christian apologists, right? Because they would hold too much sway there. Yes, there could come a point. There could come a point when I would say, all right, done with Patreon. This platform is too horrible. But right now, knowing that this is a pretty new platform, and they are in a situation where they're still trying to sort of figure out their way, I'm in a situation where I would like to see them get that fixed, and I hope they will. I hope they correct the situation with Sargon, because I read the details on that. Sargon did nothing that violates their policies. Milo, I don't know. Some of the others, I don't know. So maybe they did actually violate a policy and deserved to be banned. I just don't know.
With Milo, they gave him a reason back, I guess. So I did look at this, which said it is because of your past association with the Proud Boys, although it is now disavowed. That's what it said.
And by the way, doesn't that sound scary though?
Because the fact if it's disavowed, that seems odd that you could get in trouble for that. And they said the other reason is because
that's like saying, David, you were once a convict and a violent dude, and even though you're not like that anymore, we're going to ban you for that. It's kind of like that, right? If you're associated with some hate group or something like that, and I don't even know what this group is, so I don't even know if they are actually a hate group.
Proud Boy is some kind of alt-right group that is tries to be like hipsters.
Yeah.
And he does say very provocative stuff I would never say. The main guy's Gavin McInnes. The only reason I know any of this is because about a week ago he did something on the Hebrew Israelites. Mm-hmm. So when people do stuff on the Hebrew Israelites, I tend to watch. Now he clearly didn't know much about it. He was just, whatever. But that's the only reason I know about him, because recently he did something on the Hebrew Israelites. So I guess that's his thing, is he comes on there and promotes like masculinity, but I guess they do all kinds of other stuff too. So
yeah, well, so what? On the one hand, I'm nervous. That's sort of shaky ground, because the people who identify hate groups, I almost never trust them, right? Because I know people who get identified as hate groups that should never be identified as hate groups, right? Like Robert Spencer should never, Jihad Watch should never be identified as a hate group. A guy who spends his entire life criticizing terrorism and female genital mutilation and the killing of apostates and blasphemy laws and things like that. How could you possibly identify that person as a hate group? But they do. So when I hear, this person has, or this group has been identified as a hate group, and it's very often by the Southern Poverty Law Center, I think, well, that tells me absolutely nothing about whether this person is actually a hate group. But with that said, it sounds like what they were saying is, because you were associated at one point with this group, and then you later disavowed the group, we're still banning you anyway. And that's just, man, that's some terrifying stuff, right? Because that doesn't sound like anything that you should actually be banned for. So really, really, really creepy stuff. And there are certain platforms and companies, and if they make the wrong decisions and go the wrong route, it would not hurt my feelings at all to see them go under. And when they do, I hope that other companies take note, right? Like if Patreon doesn't change its course, right? If they stick on this course of, hey, if people complain a lot about some YouTube commentator, then we'll go ahead and kick the person off and give some sort of justification that has nothing to do with our policies, and we'll just kick that person off because a lot of people don't like them. If Patreon is going to go that route and they're not going to fix their platform, then I hope they fail. I hope they fail as a company, and I hope the next Patreon-like company that comes along takes notice of that and says, let's not make that mistake. Let's actually make some good policies and then adhere to our good policies, right? It's just like with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. All of these companies have made mistakes. But if they keep going that route, then it would not break my heart to see Twitter or Facebook just start losing business left and right. And when that happens, I hope that it serves as an example to companies like YouTube to say, wait a minute, look what these guys did. They started shutting people down. People eventually got fed up with it and then left forever. Let's not make that same mistake. So we believe in redemption here, right? So you can screw up, and we say that, vocab, how much have you screwed up in life?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh, I'm just saying. Just saying.
No, I'm just saying a lot.
Just point it out, right? Vocab has screwed up a lot. I have screwed up a lot. And so we are not the sort of people who say, oh, you've screwed up. It's too late. We're done with you. It's more like, hey, you screwed up and you screwed up again and then you screwed up 10 more times. Could you please learn from screwing up so much and then fix it? That's what we want to see. And so that's what we want to see with these companies, because these companies can do a lot of good in the world, right? YouTube, Twitter, Patreon, these companies can do amazing things in the world. And so you don't just want to, you screwed up a couple of times, so we hope you die as a company. You don't want to see that. You hope they get fixed. With that said, if they don't get fixed, if you keep seeing the same thing month after month, yeah, there does come a point. There does come a point when you just say, all right, we're done here.
You got Ham Sunshine. Oh wait, I mentioned that one. My bad. T Renee and Logical Goldfish also in the super chat. And the one, T Renee said, I discovered your channel because Sargon recommended it on the Rubin Report. So apparently Sargon recommended you.
I did I do remember that, and I had no clue who Sargon was at that point. I just saw a bunch of people popping up, I get about 250 to 500 subscribers, somewhere in there. If I'm not making videos for, a week or two, then it'll be around 250 subscribers, from 250 to 300. If I'm making videos regularly, then that, it could be 500 or so per day. So when all of a sudden I see 2,000 subscribers in a day, then I wonder what happened. And then I went to the comment section, and lots of people were saying, Sargon sent me here. And I was like, oh, who is Sargon? Because he sounds pretty cool. So yeah, that was my first introduction to Sargon.
Apparently, Patreon also banned a guy named James Alsup. I don't know who he is. I guess he's a YouTube person.
I think he's an alt-right type of dude. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he was making, I read somewhere, $12,000 a month on Patreon. That's serious.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up again, but I believe that was it.
Yeah, matter of fact, Fourscore right here says.
Yep, 12,000 per month.
Fourscore says here they took down.
Sargon. My bad. Sorry. I just want to correct myself. I'll let you go. Sargon was the one making 12,000 per month.
Oh yeah,
not James Alsup.
Okay, yeah.
I just put up.
That sounds right. Hey, why am I hearing an echo now? Did you do something different? Okay, it went away.
No, I don't have anything turned up.
All right, Fourscore here said they took down Robert Spencer too. Very sad. Now again, that's a situation where if you talk about this Alsup guy, I don't know what he did, so I don't know if he actually violated policies. But with Sargon, I do know what happened, and with Robert, I also know what happened. And Robert's situation was even more disturbing because Robert, what does he do? He talks about jihad a bunch. Well, guess what? That's exactly what I do. So why would they ban him? But that was a bad situation because I was the one who told Robert, hey, you need to get on Patreon. And he's saying, oh, but they'll just shut me down. I was like, no, Patreon's different, man. Patreon's cool. And that was back when the only person I'd seen banned by Patreon was Lauren Southern. And I actually thought that Patreon, they took it very seriously and posted a response to people who were concerned that they were going to start blocking people because of their ideas. I thought Patreon actually offered a very good explanation for why they banned Lauren Southern. And what happened there was apparently she went to Europe and she was part of a group that was blocking boats of people who were trying to get into Europe, right? So boats are crossing, I guess it was I'm assuming it was the Mediterranean, crossing the Mediterranean, trying to get into Europe. And she was with part of a group that was on boats, and they were blocking these people. Now, you can say, hey, these people, they're entering Europe illegally or something like that. But looking at it from Patreon's perspective, if someone's trying to get to shore and someone's out in the water and they're trying to get to shore and you're blocking their boat, I mean, there is a legitimate concern that you might end up causing some people's death here, right? If you block their boat and they don't make it and people die or their boat capsizes and people can't swim and people die, I can see saying, hey, I'm not stopping you from doing that, but you're not going to be funded by my site, right? I'm not going to have you, doing something with money provided by me that gets someone killed. So I thought they had a good explanation for that situation. But that's when the company came out and said, yeah, but so we're not blocking anyone for their ideas or their speech or anything like that. It's only that where, people have a genuine risk of dying here. So they said that's what they're doing. But then Robert Spencer comes along. Robert Spencer's not blocking any boats. Robert Spencer's not doing any of that. What's he doing? He's criticizing jihad, criticizing female genital mutilation, criticizing the killing of apostates, criticizing Sharia blasphemy laws. That's what he's doing. Again, it's everything I do. And they offered no explanation beyond, well, Visa told us we had to block him. We had to ban him. And so that was just a horrifying situation. They offered no genuine explanation for why they did it. And so once again, if they can do it to Robert, they can do it to me. They can do it to vocab. They can do it to anyone who has some people contact one of the companies involved and say, hey, shut this person down. And again, we'll survive if that sort of thing happens. But it's just rough. And if that becomes acceptable, I mean, keep in mind what kind of companies these are, right? Patreon is a company that says, oh, we're the middleman here. You want to give this person money. You send it to us. We send it to him. We take a little cut for helping, right? So that's what Patreon does. PayPal does something similar. If we say, well, you know, it's okay. It's okay for them to just say, Robert Spencer is banned from using our service. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? So should all credit card companies also do the exact same thing, right? Because they're doing something similar, right? They're helping out. They're helping out a financial situation. Should banks do the same thing, right? You go to Bank of America. Hey, I want to file an account. No, because Visa says you're a hate group or something like that. So you can't have an account at our bank. And suppose all banks say that. What are you saying should be done to people for the views that they hold? It's just very disturbing. And this is why we have to talk about it. We have to figure out, you know, what's going on, because again, if you do that with Robert Spencer, I do a lot of the same things that Robert Spencer does. And wherever you can point a finger at Robert and say, "Ha, you did this or you did that," I'm doing the same thing on YouTube. So that's why it's scary.
Oh man, sometimes this is depressing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it does. I don't think it's a generational thing, but I do notice. Sometimes it seems like some younger folks, a lot of times on the left, it seems like, I'm not trying to be overly political here, do have different expectations about really what free speech means and what it entails. Now, I'm not saying the stuff with some of these private companies equals, you know, the First Amendment or anything like that, but like when you hear some of these interviews or talk to some folks, it does seem like there is almost like this, well, hey, we don't agree with you, you're doing this, so, you know, you shouldn't be allowed to voice your opinion or talk. But that is a dangerous thing, to just silence unpopular views or minority opinions, because, you know, they can be right sometimes, first of all, and there's 1,000 reasons why, but who gets to determine these kinds of things? You just wonder where it all heads. And it is, I mean, how many bastions of some form of legitimate free speech are left in the world, as if there really ever was that many to begin with? Well, there's really not. And you got the United States and some other places here and there, and now the internet's like this global marketplace, this global forum. And so it becomes important as well, because there's people there who can never hear opposing ideas to their government or to whatever religious situation they're surrounded with, for example. Are we going to cut those opposing views off from them? I mean, classic tolerance. Tolerance isn't, I'll let you talk as long as I agree with you. Classic tolerance is kind of, the idea of it is designed to allow people to speak even if you don't agree with him. It doesn't mean you have to listen to him or support him or anything like that. But, you know, a robust understanding of free speech and what that means, it's a good thing, not a bad thing. Because really, it's the freedom of ideas in a way. Because no one can really truly prosecute thought crime, you know, like a machine hooked up to you knows what you're. But when you speak, it's supposed to be what you think. And so if you eliminate the ability to express whatever these views are, then you're eliminating the ability to hear any opposing thoughts to whatever's going on at the time. It's just it's a tough situation. That's why it's good to talk about these things. But you also hope some change comes. You hope that things are fixed and don't get worse. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
Yeah, there have been a lot of places down through history where you get killed for saying the wrong thing. And there are places in the world today where you get killed for saying the wrong thing. And part of the reason the West has flourished is the founding fathers, not just of the United States, but of the West, understood that, hey, if you really want to flourish as a society, you're going to have to protect things like freedom of thought, freedom of expression, things like that. You're going to have to defend these things. And defending that means you have to flex that, right? You have to flex that freedom of speech muscle here and there. And you have to defend other people's right to express their views, even if you disagree with the views. And so you don't have to agree with the person says, but you have to say, all right, we are in a society where we protect each other's rights to say it. And so with Robert, I agree with the vast majority of what Robert says. Sargon, don't know as much. I've heard his commentaries on things like the Kathy Newman situation with Jordan Peterson. Agreed with him on that. I'm sure he holds views that I don't agree with. If you're talking about an alt-right personality, I'm really going to disagree on a lot of issues with someone like that. But if you are not stepping over certain lines, like if you're out calling for violence or saying go kill these types of people or something like that, then you got to draw a line there. But if you're not crossing those kinds of lines, then hey, if you disagree with the person, refute him. Refute him. Show that his view is incorrect. Embarrass him through exposing him, and that's how you deal with the situations. Not by shutting him down or locking him up or things like that. So that's a rough situation. All right, do we want to look at some of these super chats here?
Yeah, I'm trying to see the new ones.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments. So Yeshua's chosen.
One thing is, we do need more mods, but I thought I had the ability to make mods, but it looks like only you can make mods. Yeah, I thought I had to.
Can I make it? Can I make it so that you can make mods?
I want to figure that out.
Hang on, let me try.
I don't know. I don't know if there's some way you can up my, because there's if not.
If Wake, I can upgrade vocab Malone. All right, there's vocab.
Yeah.
Go to channel, report, remove, put user in timeout. Nope, it only gives me the ability to remove you as moderator.
So I guess there's not levels. I think only you can do. Wow, that's a lot.
Hey, that's funny. I can put you in a timeout.
Go ahead, try it. Go ahead, put me in timeout, David.
I just did.
All right. Let me see what happens.
Hey, it'd be funny if someone came on and just missed that little exchange, and they're like,
"Yeah,
you see this? David talks about freedom of speech, but here he is blocking vocab."
Muslim by choice screenshots it. David Wood blocks apologist friend vocab Malone
because vocab was going to expose him.
Guys, I've been placed on timeout. People be tripping, man. They start crying about it. A lot of times. Well, I'm not saying me, but I'm saying sometimes when people get put on timeout after they new hashtag starting, hashtag free vocab. I like that. People would just trip out like, well, why was I on timeout for? Anyways.
Logical Goldfish said, greetings from California. Please do more public talks in California, David. We need you. I go out to California, usually Southern California, Anaheim region, couple times a year, but it's always in my head. If I'm going and speaking at a church, it's always in my head that in the time it takes me to go out here and go speak at this church in front of 50 or 100 or a couple hundred people, I can make a video in that time that'll be watched by 30 or 50,000 or something like that. So I understand that there's something better about actual person-to-person interaction, like being right there in front of a person. But what's the ratio? Because if it's like talking to one person in person is equivalent to talking to 10 people online, well, it's still no comparison. I should just make a video and not go speak. So I don't know. It would have to be like speaking to one person in person is equivalent to like speaking to 300 people online or something like that before I would actually have to say, okay, it makes more sense to speak to an actual audience in the same room with me. So I still do speak, but again, it's always in my mind. Hey, I could be making videos right now instead. Like,
that's what David is thinking when he's talking to
for
you.
real, even when I'm on stage. Even when I'm on stage.
Well, that's funny. I mean, but you mentioned to me one time, David, in all seriousness, about you recognize the advantage of meeting people, especially people that support and are down face to face and that kind of thing as well. Mm-hmm. But you can totally get sort of bogged down in the speaking thing, you know? Yeah. You can get kind of trapped in that. You might almost have a blessing in disguise in that thousands of apologetic ministries aren't calling you, even though you do great stuff, and yeah, you get engagements because of sort of controversial nature, because it allows you more time to do videos.
But by the way, just so you know, that has been deliberate at certain points.
What do you mean?
Certain points when I was making videos, I was deliberately trying to close doors on speaking invitations. Right? When I did the video about Muhammad wearing Aisha's garment, right?
Yeah. When
I did that, I was actually thinking, this is cool. I'll get less invitations, and so I can make more videos. That has happened. So it's usually not in my mind. It's usually and really hasn't been much so in recent months, but numerous times. It's I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this video. It's going to upset a lot of people. It's going to generate a lot of complaints, and people aren't going to invite me, and I don't have to go out and speak anywhere, and I can just make videos, right? So it's yeah. And then later I'm like, man, that was stupid, because you actually get paid for going and speaking places usually, right?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I got it's not similar with me, but just so you guys watching know, I did have a few places I was going to do stuff at.
Oh yeah.
That did get banned. So one, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, so I won't give too many details, but it was a really cool event they had planned at a college, a prominent college ministry that was getting into apologetics, and they were going to cover some kind of controversial things. You know, they were willing to talk about Islam, for example, at least. And they were willing to talk about Hebrew Israelites, and they even wanted to set up some debates. But once Islamicizes Me came out,
yep.
they sent me a message, and they were nice about it. But it was like, the board saw this, and then it's like.
Yeah, so following my reasoning, I actually helped you out, right? I helped you get less speaking opportunities, so now you can focus more on videos.
Man, I really want to thank you for that, David. I really want to.
Anytime, man. Just stick with me. Before you know it, no one will ever want you speaking in their church ever again.
Yes.
But you'll blow up crazy large on YouTube, man.
Until they kick us off.
And then we're in trouble.
David. Callum has a good question, and it reminds you, since we're here talking, I've been meaning to ask you this, and I keep on forgetting. Mm-hmm. We're trying to set up a roasting session. It's part of what I promised the people I would give them when I hit 10K. Uh-huh. It's going to be a combination of a freestyle session, roasting session. So we'll freestyle, do some things, then switch over, do some roast. And I'm trying to invite a couple people in the house so they could do it with me. But a lot of people were like, yeah, it's not really going to be a true vocab roasting session unless you get David Wood.
I will roast the crap out of you, man.
Yeah. So start working on the
especially if you got that mustache still.
I think I need to keep it for that purpose.
Yeah.
By the way, next time we go live, I'm going to bring a mustache comb. You like this the whole time. But for real, man, that would be awesome. Now, as you guys can hear, I'm not freestyling. We're doing a roasting session until my voice is cleared up. I appreciate you guys all giving me different advice and stuff. But maybe by next week, if we can do it, is our 10,000th celebration party. And if we run out of roast material, I'll put some old pictures of me on the screen, and we can roast old pictures of me too.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some.
Yes.
Oh, hey, I'll just go to one of the Hebrew Israelite pages. They got all the best pictures of you from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, they do, actually. They love old pictures of me where I look stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Isn't it funny that that's the level of their criticism? Look at this picture of this dude 20 years ago.
Yeah, they're funny.
Yeah.
They also, you guys probably don't know, but I used to do graffiti art, and I did have some legal trouble because of it. So if you search hard enough, you can find a record that I have some small, nothing quite like our friend here that I'm speaking with.
Yeah, you can't mess with me on that.
but this tiny little thing, and they'll bring it up, and it's from time to time. So I made a video on it one time called "Is Vocab a Criminal?" or something like that. I don't remember.
Bad boy.
Oh, here's
you get bad boy cred.
Yeah, here's a super chat from Oni Joe Oiden. God bless. If you consider visiting Australia, please put Canberra on your tour list. Remember, we don't get speaking engagements though.
Well,
David just said.
You know what? You know what's weird? I get asked all the time to go to Australia. I just never actually schedule a trip. But I've gotten probably 150 requests to speak in Australia in like the last year or two. Like all the time. David, come to Australia. David, come to Australia. Hey, Yeshua's Chosen says, Google banned one of my testimony videos. It's a simple testimony with a biblical view. And you guys see that? That's the problem, right? It's a simple testimony. And I've seen that sort of thing. Now, what's crazy is I have a lot of crazy videos. Sometimes a video will get blocked, and it's like pretty tame in comparison to some of my other videos. So it's clear that he's talking about Google there. Whether it's Google or YouTube, Patreon, there are the policies. The policies are written down, but the people enforcing the policies are people, right? And people have biases, right? So the people, yes. It's a person pushing the button that bans you. You know what I mean? So there are people over there, and people can be messed up. People can do some horrible things. Vocab, take over for a second.
All right, I got
there's
you.
There's an alarm going off. I'm going to see if I can mute this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now that I'm in charge of the show.
How do I mute something?
Let's badmouth David Wood and roast him. I'm just kidding. I'm actually going to... somebody asked, how's the backpack doing? Well, keep him right here by my side. Nice and handy. How you doing, backpack? No, how you doing, vocab? You guys want me to ask the backpack what's in there? Okay, sure. Hold up. Just give me a second. Backpack, do you have anything relevant to today's live stream? I'm not going to do the rap. My voice is sore. But look, Backpack provided us with something. A brand new comic book I got recently. Star Trek versus Transformers. You may wonder, what's that? How is that relevant to today's live stream? Because early in the live stream, we kicked off the show talking about the new Bumblebee movie. So if you haven't seen this whole live stream, be sure to go back to the beginning. I gave a little miniature non-spoiler review to the Bumblebee movie, which comes out in 2 weeks. So there's that. And someone else asked, I think it was Miss Piggy, I love what you asked. She said, can we also say nice things about vocab during the roasting session? Well, yes, you can. I'll drink to that. Sorry, it's late. It's 1:30 here. It's later for David, but it's 1:30, so I'm pretty dumb right now, everybody. Pretty dumb. Yeah, hey, what's up, Roxby? Yeah, I see you. You want David to do the backpack rap? I wonder if he's got it memorized. So that'd be interesting to see. Oh, Voice of Reason really wants to see the comic book. Well, let me tell you about the comic book since you asked Voice of Reason. It's not that great, but I just love the idea. They did it kind of in a fun way. The art's not like amazing. It's just sort of a fun little thing. I couldn't pass it up, but it's not going to change your life or anything. But it's all right. Vocab, sing for us with your husky voice. Sing for us. Do you mean sing or rap?
Sing for Ramses.
Actually, Warrior Woman, that's for real. Today I went to choir practice at church because the men for Christmas, just the men in the church, were going to sing together Joy to the World. But it's just the men, so it's like a temporary thrown together men's choir. But man, I sounded so bad compared to everyone. But everyone's not like these great singers anyway. It's just men singing. But man, I'm excited about it because there's something about. So at my church, a lot of people there are pretty big. Like it's a Chicano church. People got backgrounds. It's sort of a street church, So like I'm like one of the smallest guys there, and everyone's all big with these loud voices, and so it sounds awesome, and I'm excited about it. So if you want to hear me sing, 2 weeks, come to the church.
Good. I was really hoping you weren't going to do it because I was going to be like, oh, man, this is going to be messed up.
And I'll be part of it. You know who loves to sing when he does live videos? Sam Shamoon. I don't know if you saw, he did one recently where he does an Elvis impersonation. So if we ever did...
I think I've shared this before, but... I saw him belt out some Whitney Houston when we were standing in an auto parts store once. Started belting out, and I will always love you. It was horrible, but man, he was not ashamed to be singing it in front of tons of strangers.
Oh, hey, Logical Goldfish says you should create some attire from Act 17 Apologetics. Are you going to set up a, like Teespring or one of those shirts?
What I wanted to do is, like you notice I just put out a track on Muhammad and Aisha. We were going to talk about it, but we probably won't talk about it because we ended up talking a lot about, the Patreon thing and stuff like this. But made a track like this where contains basically what the Muslim sources say. And if you're watching this and you hadn't seen this, then you could go to the video I recently made on dealing with prison radicalization, and it's got a link to get this. Lots of people are asking, David, why do you say, note, this pamphlet contains a verse of the Quran in English and Arabic. Please do not dispose of it improperly. That's actually a touch of brilliance there. You put that on there because if you have a verse of the Quran in Arabic and a note saying, hey, do not dispose of this improperly, it's got the Quran on it. If you put this in the hands of a Muslim, he can't see what it is later and then throw it away, right? He can't say, oh, this is giving bad information about Muhammad that I don't like. Oh, let me throw it away. You can't do that. It's got a verse of the Quran. So he's not going to know how he can get rid of it. He's going to have to call his imam and say, how do I get rid of this thing? So it makes it a little more difficult to throw it away. So that's why we put that on there. But anyway, the idea was one of the things that I want to focus on, especially in 2019, is getting more information into the hands of people. And here I'm talking literally, right? Because, I can make a video. And if people want to learn the information in the video, they can jot down references and stuff like that. Lots of people take screenshots when I put a Muslim source up on the screen. If I put a passage from Sahih Muslim or Sahih al-Bukhari up on the screen, they'll actually take screenshots and go around sharing them that way. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And so I want to put the arguments, especially the important arguments, kind of in people's hands, right? And so I've got around, I think, about 8 of these so far, different tracks on different topics that I'll be making available. And that's mainly so that if it's an issue you're interested in, like I got one on jihad. Some people are mainly interested in Islam to respond to jihad. Well, it's got all the main passages from the Quran and the Hadith in a form like this that you can have in your pocket so that you don't have to remember all the passages, and you don't have to be carrying around massive multi-volume collections of Muslim sources in order to show people what the sources say. If you're talking to someone and they want to know what the Quran says, want to know what these passages say, you just pull it right out of your pocket, right? So you can print them out, and if you want to share them with people, you print them out and you can give them out. So things like the preservation of the Quran, got one on the preservation of the Quran, got one on a variety of issues. This is a little side note, but this is a funny story. I got one called, Where Did Jesus Say, I Am God, Worship Me? Right? And I made a video along the same lines of the same topic. But looks just like this, except where it says Muhammad and Aisha here, it says, Where did Jesus say, I am God, worship me? Starts the same. It's got a verse of the Quran up here and stuff like that. And then goes through, but it goes through and it shows that Jesus made claims about himself, which according to the Quran, only Allah can say about himself. And according to the Old Testament, only Yahweh can say about himself. Right? So if Jesus is saying things that according to the Old Testament, only Yahweh can say, and according to the Quran, only Allah can say, then he's clearly claiming to be God by the standards of both the Old Testament and the Quran. So I printed out a ton of those, and those I actually had professionally printed. I didn't just print them out on my computer. But my friend Paul and I went down to the Islam Day parade in Manhattan. So there's a big parade, a Muslim parade, and my friend Paul is Egyptian. And so Muslims will take them more from him because they think he's a Muslim. And so they were taking these tracts from him. They look suspicious at me and go, no, I don't want it, right? But Paul's over there handing them out. And Paul was over there handing some of these out. And this Muslim in full Islamic gear with a beard took one of them and then walked away. And then he came back and said, yes, this is the question I want people to have to deal with. Could you give me more? And Paul hands him a stack of these, and then the guy starts going around and handing them out. And so basically, he didn't really read it. He thought that Paul was a Muslim handing these out and thought that these tracts were attacking the deity of Christ. And so there was a Muslim in full Islamic gear running around handing out tracts on the deity of Christ. And so all the Muslims were taking them from him. So all the Muslims were walking home with these tracts on the deity of Christ. So I thought that was really awesome. But anyway, the point there is, how do we get information into a form that makes it easy to access for people and easy to distribute for people? Because some people will say, hey, pass on a video. Well, guess what? If you're in a situation like that, there's a lot of Muslims around, you can't show them a video out on the street, but you can hand them something like this. So wanted to put things like that into people's hands, but it's a similar idea with T-shirts, right? You can't put this kind of you can't put this much information onto a T-shirt, but you can put some information onto a T-shirt, right? You could put a short, basic argument onto a T-shirt. You could put something, a verse of the Quran that tells you that Christians have to judge by the gospel, or other verses of the Quran which show that the Torah and the gospel haven't been corrupted. You could put that sort of stuff out there. You could put simple arguments on T-shirts. So that's another step along the same lines as this. How do we get more information out there in a form that's easy to share? Because it's really helpful, because if you've got the information on a T-shirt, well, now you don't have to do anything, right? You're standing in line at the bank and you've got some verses of the Quran that you want people to know, or you got some verses of the Bible that you want people to know, or you got an argument that you want people to know, and it's on your back. And so whoever's standing behind you is reading this. And so you don't even have to say anything there. Your shirt is saying it. So want to come up with some designs this year and make those available to people. Those would be cool, because we could also get those. We could also buy them ourselves and give them out as prizes to people. You know what I mean? Yeah, do the shirts, give them out as prizes, but you'd also sell them? Yeah. So they'd be available on a site. If you don't know, sites like Teespring, you send Teespring a design for a shirt, and then people who want the shirt can buy it, and Teespring will print out a shirt, and then send it to you if you buy it. So there are sites like that, but yeah, they'd also make cool prizes. So
that is a good idea. I still have a few props from Islamicize Me that could be prizes. I still have some.
You said a few? You better have a bunch, unless you've been giving them out without telling me.
No, I haven't given them out to nobody.
Okay, good. So you have all the props from Islamicize Me.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's some things that we didn't keep. Some things I kept I shouldn't even have. I still have the camel pee in my fridge.
That's good.
Well, it every time I open it, it goes. Like it pops and steam. So it's like only a little bit left because it makes the bottle like for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, that thing is swimming with diseases. Don't drink that.
Well, camel urine is too, and that's fine to drink.
Yeah, water is not made impure by anything, but I don't know about the apple juice we're using there.
That's right. Oh, man. Oh, David, do you do the ugly Christmas sweater thing? Are you going to wear one this year, or have you ever done that before on purpose?
No, I've never done that before. I wouldn't mind doing it.
Bro, I was going online today, and you know me. Our church is doing one, so I was looking for one for G.I. Joe, then I looked for Transformers, then I looked for one for Star Wars, I looked for the He-Man, Thundercats. But while I was looking, I came across one that I did end up buying today. It's freaking Mike Tyson, and it says, Merry Christmas. Oh, man. When I saw that, I was like, I didn't look for this, but now that I've seen it, I want to rock. This is what I'm getting. Oh, man, it looks epic. I got my kids one, though, too. It's cute. It's Chewbacca. He's trying to put up Christmas lights, but they're all tangled up in his fur. So he's like, "Rrrr." No, anyways.
Now we all know how Vocab spends his time and money.
I do have a job, so everyone knows. Yeah. Hey, well, to be fair, I did it while I was sitting in church today. I took my kids to a Christmas party at church, and while they were doing some of their fun and games, I was buying them Christmas sweaters for another church event. Okay, Notaverse is here with the super chat. What's up, Notaverse? Have you heard about the 200 churches that have been destroyed in Serbia's Christian Holy Land of Kosovo? Muslim territories occupy Kosovo illegally, self-declared. It is an independent state. Sad. Let me say something real quick, Notaverse. I've been hearing about persecution flare up in Nigeria, in Uganda, and a few other places. I have not heard about this. Is this recent? Maybe David knows. I did not know about this.
I mean, I'd heard about some of the problems. I didn't know the numbers here. But, yeah, I just searched for it after reading the comment there. And it says, numerous Serbian, this is an article, Destruction of Serbian Heritage in Kosovo. Numerous Serbian cultural sites in Kosovo were destroyed during and after the Kosovo War. According to the International Center for Transitional Justice, 155 Serbian Orthodox churches and monasteries were destroyed by Kosovo Albanians between June 1999 and March 2004. So that's just a less than 5-year period. 155 Serbian Orthodox churches. So that is a lot of churches. And by the way, Robert Spencer and I have talked about this during live streams. But if you read the history of jihad, that is standard for basically 14 centuries. Wiping out churches, not just churches. If we're talking about India and stuff like that, it's wiping out Hindu temples and so on. But yeah, places of worship been wiped out by Muslims in the name of Islam for 14 centuries. So, I mean, the reason this is important is we're not very familiar with that, right? In places like the United States, be hard to imagine hundreds of churches just being destroyed in the name of Allah. And yet, it happens. All right, I got to get up again. Just so you know, these aren't terrible emergencies. These are, disconnected circuits or something like that where I have to get up and go. Looks like he might have done it himself.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, he can hook himself back up. Lots of times when you hear an alarm, it's because he wants attention. One of the kids want attention, right? They learn that very on. Hey, if you want someone to come over and do something, you disconnect your breathing circuit. It sets off an alarm. And so,
boy, you get an alternate system there.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the situation. Anyway,
you need to read The Boy Who Cried Wolf to Him. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, now we know. And by the way, I'm on chapter 8 of Robert Spencer's The History of Jihad, so I'm most of the way done, but we're just getting up. We're about to get up to modern times, and I'm sure Robert covers this in his book because he's being very thorough. So for those of you out there interested in jihad, good book to get.
It is. Robert's a machine when it comes to publication. I don't know how he does it.
All right, we got about 15 more minutes. We'll just take some comments. Answer some questions on the way out. Act 17, please make a video about Muslim women's inability to marry non-Muslims. That's actually, the reason that's an important issue is this gets put forward in lots of like interfaith dialogues or presentations on Islam. And it goes like this. If you want to know how tolerant Islam is, the Quran even allows us, Muslims, to marry Christian and Jewish women. Now, how tolerant is that? And so the appropriate question to ask there is, yeah, but can Muslim women marry Jewish or Christian men? And the answer is no. And so, well, why, if you're really tolerant, then why is it okay for Muslim men to marry non-Muslim women, but not for Muslim women to marry non-Muslim men? And if you actually look at the justification for the reasoning in Islam, they viewed it as good. They viewed it as taking over the reproductive capabilities of the unbeliever, right? If you marry a Christian or Jewish woman, you're taking over the reproductive capabilities of Jews and Christians. And so it's yeah. I may have brought that up as a point at certain points, but yeah, I don't think I've made a video about that. So might be a good video to make.
When I was talking to Elton Simpson, that everybody who doesn't know is the friend who I had from various things here in Phoenix who I did not know, but later on would become a jihadi and actually get himself killed by security in Texas. When I was talking to him about relationships, because he was justifying the jizya as well, the people can't be part of the army and the police, so it makes sense that they pay the jizya in part. He was justifying it with that kind of reasoning, and that led down a trail of Elton and I, who went by Ibrahim. I never called him Elton. I didn't know that was his name till he passed, till he was killed, anyways. But we were asking about relationships. That's where the path led. And he clearly said, you cannot have, he said, I cannot have a Christian as a friend. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, we're not friends? He basically was like, well, we're just talking, and basically like I'm doing dawah, and we're just talking type of thing. And I was like, well, I was kind of joking, like, well, don't you like me? He's like, no, it's not about that. It's not whether I like you or don't like you. I listen to God. I mean, this is the way he spoke, right? And then he would quote the Quran verses about that, or maybe mention a hadith. And early in the conversation, we had mentioned about marriage, about intermarriage, and all this, and it kind of circled back around. And I don't remember the exact line of questioning, but it was along these lines. Well, so could you marry a Christian woman? He says, yes. And I said, wait, but I thought you can't have a Christian as your friend. He's like, yeah, a wife's not my friend. And he was dead serious. He wasn't making a joke. He wasn't, and I just looked at him like, for real? So to him, he saw separation like, yeah, I can marry a Christian woman because that's not my friend. So I'm not violating anything. I don't know if that's normal or consistent, but that was what he thought.
That's a good bit of reasoning there.
Yeah, man, it's wild because he wasn't out of control. In fact, he was one of the most composed Muslims I have probably ever talked to, as far as a serious Muslim, because there's lots of Muslims I speak with who they're like I remember I talked to my cab driver once, and on the way to the airport, I think I was going to meet you somewhere, I don't remember, but I said, so you're a Muslim? He's like, oh yeah, very. I said, what do you think of the Quran? And he talked about how great the Quran was. And then I said, oh, so have you read such and such in the Quran? He's like, oh, no, I never read the Quran. I was like, what do you mean? You just said it was the greatest book uncorrupted by Allah. He's like, yeah, but then if I read it, I'll be held accountable for what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was speaking of so a guy like that, I'm not saying, he was clearly composed and cool and chill and kind of, what I mean is the serious Muslims like I would speak to at the mosque and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Elton Simpson was by far one of the most composed, but this is the stuff he would say. Because a lot of the Muslims leaving the mosque when we would try to witness to them, they weren't having it. They weren't real happy. Elton was never like that, but man, the stuff he would say with a straight face was just like, I remember one time I said to him, I was like, bro, I wish somebody was recording this right now.
Yeah.
I remember I said that one time, but little did I know, like.
And just tell everyone again, how did he die?
Oh, so Elton Simpson and a friend named Nadir, I think his last name was Sufi. I never knew Nadir. I guess they were even roommates. They drove from Phoenix, supplied with armaments provided by another Phoenician Muslim man who went to that same mosque I would go witness at, drove all the way to Garland, Texas, because Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer were having a Draw Muhammad cartoon contest, which I didn't really agree with at the time. And to be honest, I'm actually still not a fan of those. As far as me personally, I know people have different views. I'm actually personally not a big fan of those events, but they should be able to do it, and they definitely shouldn't be killed for it. Anyways. So they drove out there, and they got out of the parking lot armed to the teeth, according to the reports, opened up fire. I think they hit a security guard in the ankle, but he dispatched of them both, and they died literally right beside their car. I went and looked for pictures afterwards because I realized about a day later I knew who the person was. Once they said it was a Muslim from Phoenix, I was like, I wonder. And when I saw his face, I was like, wow, he could have done something like that. But it was still shocking and a very harrowing feeling. But I remember I looked, and there was like in the pictures where they wouldn't show the bodies, but they showed little things beside the car when they had those little. It was when it was a crime scene, and I zoomed in on view, and on one of them I saw a baseball cap, and meaning like I know that was Elton's. Nadir didn't dress that way from the pictures I saw. Like it's bugged out. Like he got out all armed up with all this gear, and still had his rocking his I think it was a Yankees baseball cap or something. But anyways, yeah.
And for people who want to zoom to the end of Islamicize Me, if you go to the end of day 30, you find out that that's who the series was based on, right?
Yeah.
The series of Islamicize Me is based on a couple of people converting to Islam and seeing what would actually happen, and they eventually decide that they're going to martyr themselves, killing Robert Spencer. And so that was a true story. Right, it was based on actual events of someone who vocab knew. And what's amazing is a lot of the people who complain about the series, oh, you guys were too mean in this series, you shouldn't be doing this. It's like, guys, people are actually going out and dying over this stuff, and it's some of the stupidest stuff you could imagine, and we need to put it in people's faces. And do you have a better idea, right? What do you do? What do you do? Because this isn't just, just talk about these kinds of things if the situation ever arises. What are you talking about? There are people actually dying. Those guys showed up to mow down a conference full of people, right? They were going to gun people down.
Yeah, there was anyone at the event. It wasn't just like they weren't targeting. They weren't doing target assassination.
No, that was going to be a massacre. If they hadn't been stopped, that was going to be a bloodbath. And so it's a situation like that where, guess what? That's exactly what you'd conclude you're supposed to do from reading the Muslim sources. And so the real way to challenge that, to challenge the behavior, is by going after the sources. But if you do, say you're a bigot, you're a hate monger for going after these sources. Very strange world we live in here.
that guy, I don't know how well you know his work. I follow him on Twitter, the Imam of Peace. That's what he goes by, and he has a new book out.
Yeah, Tawhidi. Yeah. I should get it, and I think it's coming on the 11th. But yeah, I got his book. I ordered his book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he tweeted recently. He said Hillary Clinton is going to be mad at me, or no, Michelle Obama, one of the two, because I guess his book surpassed theirs on some Amazon list, which is kind of funny. But he recently tweeted something that was kind of funny. It said, Islam is not about jihad. He put, detractors. And then he said, I start talking about jihad. Mm-hmm. And then they say, why are you criticizing Islam? Like, I was like, I thought that was a good way that he put it, which is a good point. By the way, a couple more super chatters.
Oh, yeah, let me pull up one here.
Castanovas is one.
Yeah.
And also, Notaverse is back. I like your name, Notaverse.
I got Castanovas here on the screen. He says,
a good Greek name. Go ahead.
Prison pamphlets are great for prison, jihad, and students, but what can we do about the general population? Islamists are relentless and insidious. USA effects are already here. We have a jihadist congresswoman. Think about poker, right? Think about poker here. In poker, but if you watch like poker movies from like 20, 30 years ago and so on, like The Gambler with Kenny Rogers, things like that, in these old gambling movies, the idea was always like a skilled poker player would just instantly beat a person who doesn't really know how to play poker. They would just win every hand. And that's just nonsense, right? The worst poker player in the world can get a good hand. And poker players who are just average can usually get away with a bluff here or there, even against an experienced poker player, as long as they're not like, panicking or something like that, which they won't, even if they're an average poker player. They're able to win hands, put it that way. An average poker player playing against a world champion poker player will still win hands. So, but what happens? Well, the idea is an experienced poker player has an advantage. He has an advantage. He knows the odds of various hands and so on. And because he has an advantage going into every hand, the other person is going to win hands, but over the course of 30 hands or 50 hands or 100 hands, he's going to take all that other person's money because he has an advantage every step of the way. So I'm saying this because don't think of responding to Islam as here's the knockdown thing that will destroy Islam or something like that.
Right.
Think of something, hey, here's a little something that will give us an advantage, right? And lots of times with information or learning to respond to an argument or any little thing you can do, just like we were talking about earlier, T-shirts, getting some information out there, printing out pamphlets, reading a book, reading something like Robert Spencer's History of Jihad, sharing YouTube videos, talking to different people on Facebook, however we're going about it. None of those things solves the problem, right? None of those things just, bam, all of a sudden you've won. All of those things start to shift the advantage, right? And so that's how we should be thinking. So to get back to the question, prison pamphlets are great for prison, jihad, and students. As I pointed out about that tract I made, there's nothing in the tract about prison, right? That's just an area where it would be particularly helpful because it's one of the moral principles that almost all inmates agree on, right? Like if I made one about snitching, almost all inmates would agree on that. Lots of the population out here wouldn't care as much, but inmates do. So it's a huge issue for inmates.
I remember I asked you that one time. I was like, are there any examples of Muhammad snitching? Because you did the one. And like, go ahead.
So that sort of information, that if you get that information into the hands of people, wherever you go, think about this. So the idea is if you printed out 1,000 of these and you handed out 1,000 of these somewhere, you got them into people's hands somewhere, 1,000 of those. Now maybe 900 of the people throw them away. and maybe 100 people read some of them, and maybe 20 people read all of them, right? So you shouldn't be thinking, oh no, but most people are throwing them away. You should be thinking, whoa, 20 people read this all the way through, and now they are informed. You just gave your side in this great struggle of ideas a slight advantage, right? A slight advantage. And so all the little things that we're doing, making videos, printing tracts, reading books, having discussions, all of these things are giving us a little bit of an advantage, but a lot of little advantages add up. Just like, I made the video about using this in the context of a prison. Well, this isn't, oh, you pass this out and all of a sudden there's no more prison jihad. That's not what it really is, right? It's giving people who oppose jihad a kind of advantage, right? And giving Muslims in that system a disadvantage. But that adds up, right? If you shift the advantage this way, that doesn't instantly solve the problem, but it puts you on the right track. And so if you keep doing that, if you keep finding ways to give yourself an advantage, those advantages adds up, and eventually you find out that the tides have turned.
I like your pamphlets. I visited a church. I visited our old friends at the Arabic church today for the Christmas party, and I had left a couple books there, so I went to the office to grab them. And when I was picking up some of the books, with the books I had left, guess what I found? A couple old David Wood tracts that had passed out, so I grabbed that too. It was the one about the corruption of the Quran or the New Testament, one of the two. I forget the title, but it's like, I think it has the Bible being corrupted, or has the Quran been corrupted?
Yeah, who corrupted the gospel?
Yeah, that one.
I've still got files on all those, because we've mentioned this before, that back when I made those were meant for like just to be passed out. I wasn't like, hey, people print these out and making them available in that way where people could print them around the world. It was for us to print out. It was for us to print out and then distribute. Right. But it would be cool that people can now download those, because the points I put in tracts were the points that I'd started using in debates and finding out that there aren't really good Muslim responses for these, like who corrupted the gospel. So Muslims say that the gospel has been corrupted. According to Muslim sources, the gospel hasn't been corrupted and can't be corrupted. But if a Muslim wants to say the gospel has been corrupted, the question should arise, all right, who corrupted it? Because Muslims want to say, aha, Christians corrupted it, or the Apostle Paul corrupted it, or the Council of Nicaea corrupted it. When, if you read the Muslim sources, Allah corrupted it. Allah was the first one to corrupt Christianity. And he did that by tricking and deceiving people into believing that Jesus died on the cross. So point a finger at Allah if you want to get angry about the gospel being corrupted. And
if you do that, watch out, because he might point two right hands back at you.
Yeah, for real. And yeah. But I have tracks on a lot of topics like that. A lot of people did bring up in response to the video, what about the issue of Muhammad being white and having black slaves? Guys, that's already part two. That's part two of the prison track series. And here again, you don't have to use these in a prison context, but it's a point that would be very, very significant if you made it in a prison context. The idea that Muhammad was one of the whitest people in Arabia, and they would identify him as this white man, as Muhammad the white man, and that he bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves, and his followers institutionalized black African slavery centuries before Europeans got involved, right? So it's important to know that, because that undermines and undercuts an advantage that Islam currently has in prison, right? We're talking about shifting advantages here. Right now, Muslim preachers are able to go in prison and share a message that resonates with lots of the people there, because the people don't know certain things about history. Well, if you inform them about those things, then all of a sudden you've just shifted the advantage. So yes, there are more tracks coming, and some of the other things that would help is, showing the Christians how to defend basic Christian doctrines and defend Jesus' resurrection and stuff like that. Yeah, we've got all of that in tracked form. We'll be unpacking those in the coming weeks and months.
Tracks. We need to get someone who's like an Act 17 apologetics meme creator.
Yep.
Because that's almost like the new digital track in ways. I know it's not our thing, but memes, that's like really, that's a thing, man. Like they could even take little quotes from videos and stuff, with certain images.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm not a meme creator. I'm trying to think of something would be cool off the top of my head. I don't know. Anyways.
Someone mentioned, are these Is Jesus God pamphlets? How do I get them? Yeah, again, I have files on them, but I want to release them. So I'll be posting them on a site and then making a video about how people can get them and use them. So we'll be making those available, but it's kind of me putting it on a site doesn't get the information out there to people, right? Because I have one site where it's just for storing files and stuff like that. So I have to also make a video about it. And so I'll do that over time and post a video. One other thing I want to do, because we mentioned that we want to make resources available to people, want to start releasing my PowerPoints, right? PowerPoint files, and then a recording of me giving the presentation, because I'm not stingy with my material. Any of you guys out there, especially if you speak different languages, if you want to jot down whatever I say in a video and translate it and just give it as your own video, you don't need to give me credit. I don't care about any of that. Not stingy with any of my material. If you learn something I say and you like it, you go out and share it like it's yours. So similarly with presentations, want to start making my PowerPoint files available on various topics, and then like a video of me using the PowerPoint in a presentation, so you can get your mind around presenting the material, and then go give the presentation. Right? You've got the PowerPoint. Take the PowerPoint, download the PowerPoint, watch me give the presentation. Go out, give the exact same presentation. Give a presentation in your church. Give it on a college campus and so on. So yeah, we're gonna make a ton of stuff available this year. This next year.
I'd love to see your Science According to Muhammad, that PowerPoint.
Oh yeah,
I don't
that was
know why.
good.
Every time you do that one, I just laugh so much. It's like the way you do it. Oh man, that was just funny.
Oh, it was cool because I'd give a summary after going through like how sick you're going to get. And this is before Islamicize Me. We incorporated the material into Islamicize Me, but once you read through all the sources and see how sick you would get. So you're dunking your fly, and here are the diseases you would get. And then you go to wash your hands, and you do it in this well that has dead animals and used menstrual cloths and human waste in it, and you rub that all over you, and you keep going through all of these different ways you're going to get sick. And so you start feeling a little, stomach ache, so you get thirsty, and so you drink this water from a pool that has a dead donkey floating in it, and then you're really sick. What's the solution? Camel urine. And people just see how ridiculous that is, right? I mean, you just have to say what Muhammad actually taught about these things, and people catch on to how ridiculous this is.
I got a clever comment from Rescued is my favorite breed. She said, 2 right hands and yet loved by the left. That was clever.
That's T-shirt material right there.
See?
You quote the hadith on Allah having 2 right hands.
Yeah.
2 right hands and love by. I'm going to steal that. I've been talking about doing a series, Man God Monday, where we start reading passages on Allah being a man God. But yeah, that might be an ongoing slogan. Did you invent that? Did you come up with that, or did someone else use that? And I don't want to use it and then like, oh yeah, that's Sam Shamoon's saying, and then it looks like I stole it from Sam Shamoon.
Sam Shamoon.
Even though I steal a lot of my arguments from Sam Shamoon.
That's true. It's just the same argument, just delivered by a prettier face, right? Mm-hmm. We got Oh, where'd that comment go? Ah. Oh, wait, where'd it go?
Somebody asked if Allah had two right butt cheeks.
Oh, boy, people. Someone asked if you've ever heard of the Zamzam well. I've heard of the Zamzam well.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I know. So I'm just looking through the comments here.
I believe it has like magical healing properties and stuff. So if you go to if you take the Hajj to Mecca, one of the goals is to get some vials or bottles of Zamzam water.
Yeah, that'd be something you could include in an Islamicize Me type thing. Remember we had that one idea I had where we were going to have them get confused, where we were going to read something about Muta, but then they were going to go by a store and it was going to say Muay Thai. And they were going to get confused and go in there with Muta, like a Muta setup, but it'd be in a Muay Thai like training facility.
That's one of the ideas that didn't work out.
Yeah,
could be a future video though. Be a future video. All right, we should probably wrap up now. All right. Any final thoughts, anyone?
I'm just looking at the comments. People got funny comments.
Yeah, I know.
It'd be good to go though, because I want to make it to church pretty much on time. You know.
Yep, it is 4:00 a.m. here. That's pretty good because I only got about another 4 hours, and then I will hit the sack.
So I noticed tonight you were drinking out of where'd it go? A water jug. Last time we were together, you're drinking out of a coffee pot directly. So.
Oh well, yeah. I already drank a bunch of coffee, and I didn't. I was setting up here and didn't have time to make another pot. But as far as drinking out of a jug, I realized I would, if I'm drinking out of like little water bottles and stuff, I go through them pretty quickly when these are only like 60 cents. So might as well just get a big jug and carry that thing around and drink it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think I heard something about people from West Virginia that's how they do things.
You think people from West Virginia drink out of...
one of the videos we did when the camera was off while we were doing a mic check, and I made like some pretty inappropriate jokes about West Virginia. You're like, you can't do this, Lee. You know what? You probably never knew this, but when I ended up putting some of those up on my channel, what I did is I thought those jokes were funny, but I didn't want to keep them on there. So one of them, I reversed it and played it backwards, like at the end of the video.
Mm-hmm.
But you could easily see what it says if you just went on there. But no one ever said anything about it. I don't think anyone ever took the time to do it. Anyways. Vishal says, could you guys make an Islamicize Me too? It's funny, we get this question like every time.
Yeah.
We talked about doing a prequel.
Prequel. Oh, you know what I was thinking?
What?
So for the prequel we're talking about, because Islamicize Me starts off and we're atheists, but particular kinds of atheists, right? Like I have lots of atheist subscribers and stuff, and lots of them are really cool, but then you have the sort of angry Dawkins fans, atheists, and that's how we start off Islamicize Me, as Dawkins fans. So if we're doing a prequel, it would be kind of how we became that, and we could really start off as anything. So we could start off that, the prequel as Mormons, or we could start off as anything, right? But somehow we'd become atheists, and then become more and more sort of extreme in our views. And I was thinking, because how we started off that series, how we started off Islamicize Me, the kinds of atheists we were fans of particular comments by Richard Dawkins in which he was basically saying that no amount of evidence would ever convince him that God exists, no matter what the evidence was. Even if God wrote a message in the stars telling him to believe something, he still wouldn't believe. He would just say aliens did it. And so these guys, it was Richard Dawkins and Peter Boghossian, and they were actually positing powerful trickster aliens. And so the question is, what evidence could you give a person like that would convince him that God exists? And the answer is absolutely nothing. God could appear and start shooting lightning bolts, and it wouldn't convince the person that God exists, because you could just say aliens are trying to trick me. And so that's actually the position of Dawkins. When atheists think he's this champion of going wherever the evidence points, and he's acknowledging it doesn't matter where there is no evidence that I would accept. And so, but we are fans of that view at the beginning of the series. So I was thinking it might be funny if we're atheists, but like we keep getting more and more evidence that we have to explain away. And then it gets to the point where like there are like miracles happening all around us, and people being healed, and we're being healed, and Christians are putting their hands on us and healing. So we have to become more and more radically skeptical, to the point where we eventually get like that, right? Where our hero is someone who just says, I will reject all evidence no matter what it is, as long as it's pointing to theism. And so, and we could end with us like walking into, to eat some ribs. Anyway, that's a general idea of how the prequel could go.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
What?
No,
I was just going to say, we sort of do have, I have sort of an atheist character. I don't know if John will be the Pastafarian the whole time, but he sort of has, well, that's a different.
No, he can't be. Those
character.
are different guys. Those are guys that beat the crap out of him.
Oh, yeah, I guess I have to come up with a new atheist character. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say for the sequel. For the sequel would be where we're Christians, and at the end of Islamicize Me, we become Christians, but it's just after accepting a simple gospel message. Whereas we're messed up enough that we're going to have to go through some struggles and so on to really become mature Christians. So we'd have to figure out how to make it funny. But what would be cool there is we could even incorporate some Islam there, right? Because other people, or even Sam Shamoun returning as the sheikh, could decide that like we have to die because we're apostates or something like that. So we could still be it could be not just our new lives as Christians, but like constantly under death threat for being apostates and stuff like that. So there's still a lot we could do. Huh?
Yeah, we could have like a local guy give a fatwa against us.
Yeah, so and by the way, as soon as we iron out some details, these are things we could do, right? I mean, we want to do the Jesus versus Muhammad epic rap battle. We want to do that in the next few months, but I mean 2019's coming up. We might want to aim towards like April to record, like last time, to record the prequel series, do all the recording. So we'll have to figure it out before then.
Oh man. Oh boy. Now I'm getting scared.
We'd have to knock it out.
Oh boy.
It's kind of rough doing all that, because like vocab has to take like a week off work and stuff like that for us to be out there recording every day.
It's a pretty crazy time. I do have a new facility though where we could record. It looks very different than the last place we recorded. So there's a couple like little spots we could rearrange. It's a different place, but I got a different place we could use.
Mm-hmm. We have here Fedor. He says, come do a debate or presentation in the Seattle area. We'll set it up. It's got no problem coming up to Seattle. That was, hey, since you're from there, let me tell you a little story. My dad was in the military, and he was stationed in Adak, Alaska when I was like 5 and 6 years old. And so I was 6 years old, and I lived in Massachusetts, so East Coast. Lived in Massachusetts, and my dad sent me a plane ticket. I lived with my mom and her boyfriend in Massachusetts. Dad was in Adak, Alaska. And so Dad sent me a plane ticket to come to Alaska for the summer when I was 6 years old. So they actually stuck me on a plane when I was 6. I freaked out when I got on the plane, started screaming. But I eventually calmed down. This guy beside me started playing Go Fish with me. And so I calmed down, flew across the entire country by myself, 6 years old, and until I got to Seattle. And that's where my dad picked me up. And he took me to the Space Needle, right? We get off the plane. He says, we're going to go on the Space Needle. And so I hear Space Needle, and I think this thing is going to blast off into space on account of it being called the Space Needle. And so I look at it, and there's this big, you know what the Space Needle looks like. If not, then go ahead and look it up. For you, I know if you're from Seattle, you know. But for anyone else who's watching and doesn't know what the Space Needle looks like, you can look it out. Shaped like something that might blast off. So I'm sitting there as we're approaching the Space Needle, and I'm looking at that thing thinking, how's it going to land, right? I mean, it's clear how it's going to blast off. It's going to shoot straight up. But how's that thing going to come down? That thing's going to crash as soon as it comes down. So I did not want to go in there because I thought it was going to blast off. So there's like this elevator you get into when you go in there. And I just lost it. I started flipping out and lashing at everyone. My dad tried to hold me in place, and his hand got close to my mouth, and I remember biting down. I chomped on his hand to try and get him to let me go so I get out of this place. And anyway, he held me there, and we got up to the top, and then I saw like those viewfinders. You put a quarter in there, and then you can look around. And I realized,
I remember those. Yeah,
I was like, oh, this thing isn't blasting off. This is nothing to be scared of. So anyway, that was my experience with the lovely city of Seattle.
Well, 6 years old is pretty young to do all that. I wonder if they let you do that now.
What? You know? Bite someone in an elevator? No.
No.
What?
No, go fly across the country at 6.
Well, now I'm 42 years old. What? No, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are now. Yeah.
But that Space Needle does. I mean, I'm thinking about it now that you mentioned. So I've been on it too.
Yeah.
I was in high school, I think. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember. Yeah. I could. If you're 6 years old and you hear Space Needle, that's a really funny thought. It would seem like it would like take off.
Yeah. No one bothered to tell me this thing is not actually going to take off, and that the Space Needle has nothing to do with space.
That's funny because there's a really, really bad episode of G.I. Joe where it's Leatherneck, Lifeline, and one of the other guys, I forget who, and they go out for a night on the town. So, like, they're basically going clubbing.
Oh,
and
nice.
they go in this club, and they're, like, showing the dancing, and they are trying to pick up chicks. This is in this 80s cartoon. Nothing, obscene, but, like, it's funny when you, like, think about it through the eyes of an adult. Anyways, I don't know the reasons why, but Cobra had rigged this club because it had some kind of theme or something to it that was relevant to this. Like, it was called, like, outer space or something like that. They rigged it to make it an actual rocket. And so the Joes are in the club dancing, and the thing goes up into space. And they're part of this Cobra plot, and now they're trapped in space in this dance club. And there's a part where they had to go from a room to room where there was no oxygen in one spot, and they legitimately used garbage bags over their head so they could have enough oxygen to get from one place to another. Anyways, that story just reminded me of that. I'm so sorry.
That's pretty awesome. See, you were saying that, and then I started remembering the episode because we were talking about Transformers earlier. There was the episode where they were in the club, and Soundwave was in the club. Soundwave was the music source in the club, and he started blasting sound waves of, like, mind control.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I think that episode had breakdancing in it, too. Transformers there's a couple episodes where they befriended some, like, punks. Like, they were, like, street punks, and they were all, like, using slang and stuff, you know what I mean? and just, I don't know, it's just funny.
Decades in the Making said, have the celebrity Halal Hogan feel the Pentecostal fire and start speaking in tongues.
No, we just need another different wrestler for that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that, remember we talked about, guys, I don't know, we've talked about having different wrestlers with different worldviews. It could be like the battle.
We actually had a professional wrestler contact us and volunteer to play a part.
We've got to use him for something because he could teach us a few moves.
We have to.
I'll be like, well, it's supposed to be worldviews, but we could have a Pentecostal wrestler. we gotta think of one. Like instead of Rowdy Roddy Piper, like Rowdy Roddy Radahamdalai. Radahamdalai, some kind of.
What was crazy? But both of Sam's characters, the Mad Sheikh and Halal Hogan.
What about him?
It takes a lot to crack me up laughing, because once it starts recording, I'm pretty serious, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll laugh if I'm supposed to be laughing and stuff like that. But it takes a lot to actually make me burst into laughter and ruin a scene. And Sam did that multiple times. Sam did that multiple times with his characters. So yes, we have to use some stuff with Sam again in the future.
I think he did that to all of us. There was.
Oh yeah, when we were in the mosque.
Yeah. I remember losing it. There's a couple times that
everyone did, the cameraman, everyone,
because he was so serious.
Yeah. And we had no idea that it was coming, right? We would like give him we would just say, talk about this, and as funny as it looks, you can watch the episodes with Sam where he plays the sheikh who's actually giving a sermon, and we're sitting on the floor in front of him and he's talking. As funny as that looks in the video with Sam preaching with these eyes bulging out of his head and talking, and you know what Satan does? He farts! He farts! Right? As funny as it looks in the video, it was nothing compared to Sam's big head being right in front of us, looking down at us with these crazy
we're on the
eyes.
ground, looking up. Every time he would go, the hikmah, the hikmah of Allah. Whenever he would do the hikmah thing, I just There's a couple scenes we kept, though, where if you look, I'm looking down and I'm shaking.
Yeah,
bit.
I knew you're cracking up laughing, but you're yeah.
Oh man, that reminds me of when I kept on ruining takes by purposely letting real go.
Yeah, like those scenes, and then you with the because the stuff that normally gets me, the stuff that would normally make me crack up, is one, I can't know it's coming, and two, it has to just be like so stupid, right? So with the finger licking scene, when you said you have to go to Vocab's channel to actually watch this, the deleted scene where I lost it, and
oh yeah,
when he said sometimes to get that blessing you got to eat that messing, and man, I lost it for about 60 seconds straight, didn't I?
Yeah, because that wasn't in a script or anything, and then I did it all serious.
Yeah, that was he was dead serious.
Straight at the camera.
Yeah, that was classic.
Oh man, okay. All right, we better eventually go, man. It's been
real. Yeah, it's a good time to go. It's 4:27. Once again, I was planning on jumping on here for an hour, but there's a bunch of people on here. So it was good to stay on, and I think this is how long we stayed on last week. I think we were on 2.5 hours. So,
yeah, blame it on the audience. It's people's fault.
Yeah. So anyway, someone over in the comments who must have come on late asked, why is he staying up till 8 o'clock? Well, you can go back to the beginning, but I basically mentioned that on weekends I stay up all night because we have 2 of our 5 sons are disabled and sort of need someone watching them at all times. We have a nurse during the week, but on weekends we don't. So I stay up at night on weekends, and then just occurred to me, hey, I'm sitting here, and there are people who are probably still up, or people who are in different parts of the world who might want to chat, and Vocab for some reason stays up late, and so maybe we'll jump on and do a little live streaming. By the way, for all of you who are still on, if you're not already subscribed to Vocab's channel, go over to Vocab's channel. It does tons of live streaming with lots of different guests. So he's got lots of different guests on lots of different topics. So be sure to head over to Vocab's channel, and if someone wants to share the link, but you can just look up Vocab Malone. If someone wants to share the link, and I'll go ahead and I'll put it in the I'll put it in the comment section here now that we're wrapping up. But you want to You want to subscribe to Vocab's channel for future shows. And just so everyone knows, the video I'm working on right now that will be out here in the next couple of days is Top 10 Myths Muslims Believe About Islam, Muhammad, and the Quran. People love top 10 lists for some reason, but I've got a video coming out on my top 10 my top 10 myths that Muslims believe about the Quran, Islam, the Quran, and Muhammad. So be watching for that. And apart from that, we'll be back here. Unless something else happens, we'll be back here next Saturday night in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning or so, to discuss whatever you guys want to discuss. I'm sure topics will come up. All right. See you all then.